Hi, Marie Counts here with Landscape Skills. So I wanted to show you how I do my trees really quick. And I try to keep them sassy, classy, and casual because I think that we should be representing our work as in landscape architecture, not as photorealistic renderings when we're doing stuff, especially in the conceptual and schematic, even through a lot of design development, because when we are portraying our work as if it's done when it's not, we're really sort of signaling to a client that, or even colleague, that our work is done and it's really just begun. So I think this is also a really fun, quick way to make some trees. So they can be used in plan and section. I'll show you how to do that in a second. So I'm just going to make a new layer. I'm on a new drawing here, and I'm going to get my paintbrush out. I'm going to select the kind of paintbrush that has a grain to it so that it really feels like an actual kind of deciduous tree. This is not for tropical trees. I should have said that. So I'm going to just go ahead and with my mouse just click a bunch of times and sort of create some variation, so in the canopy there. And then to give it a little bit more depth, I'm going to add some low lights. So I'll just double click on that fill and then add some low lights. And that'll create kind of a massing. And I go all the way around. I don't really just go on one side. I like to make a nice aerial like tree. And then a nice even distribution. And then I'm going to get some highlights. So I'm going to pick a higher color up here, the yellows. Okay, so then that's going to give me some variation. And then once I get those in, I might go back to kind of that medium. I wouldn't recommend, more than 3 of the dark, the medium, and the light. You shouldn't need much more than that. But you can certainly spend a lot more time on it than I am here for the purposes of this demo. I just want to make sure you get your quick fix, get your goals and things in there. Okay, so that's really how to do the quick tree. And then you can also turn this into a shadow. So I wanted to just show you that, and then how you can apply that to trees in sections. So if you just make a copy and then drag your layer over a new layer, that way you'll get a copy that way, so you can have a couple. And if you double click on it, it's going to come up with all these options. So you can actually add a color overlay of black. And I'm just going to save that for a second because that shadow is going to come into play in a moment. And then the other way to make a shadow is to double click and just do drop shadow. So you can drop a shadow and do the distance over here and the spread and the size and all sorts of other options with that. However, if you're not kind of doing a manual shadow like the other one I just did previously, then when you go to copy this tree and it becomes a new layer, you really need to pay attention to that layer order of that shadow because if you're not careful, the shadows are going to actually overlap on top of the other trees and it's going to look like trees are on top of each other. So just be mindful of that. A way to get around it is actually just to merge those 3 layers and then drop the shadow instead of doing a shadow for each individual one and then copying it with a shadow. And to merge the layers, you just hold down Shift, right click, and say merge layers. So whatever layers you want to do, you can do that with. Okay, so now I'm going to just show you how this applies to trees that might be in section or I guess even in perspective if you're doing a nice little collage. And so you'll have to check out my Landscape Skills other YouTube video if you're looking at how to clip out trees. So I'm using a pre-clipped tree here and I'm just going to add this on top of it. I'm going to add my nice my new trees that are now going to be in perspective or section elevation. And as long as this is on top, you'll really be able to edit the best in terms of making the tree a little bit less refined. I think that's the goal here, to make it more workable. And so you can also add multiples of them and it'll get leafier and leafier and feel more and more painterly. So if that's something that you're looking for, you can do that. And then, of course, if we're adding some variety and we have multiple trees, not only can you change the size and also flip them to be in a different direction so that they really feel like they're real, so they're not all the same. Otherwise, it's just going to start to look exactly like a little series of stamps, like you didn't spend very much time or care much. So that's a trick there, but you can change the hue. So I would recommend editing the hue, if you're going to be, pushing a certain season, like the fall, something like that, that can help. But even if it's just a nice summer, just having some variety really kind of flushes out the image. So that can be something that you test out. And then also, of course, the opacity. So as you can see here, I've been going up and down with my opacities, right, to add a little bit of a boost there, or to create some more depth that goes back and forth, okay? And then the other thing we can do is now bring back this shadow. So to get it to actually look like a shadow, if you hold down Control and then hover your mouse over, and I do have the Show Transform, there we go, Controls and Auto Select selected. So that won't pop up if you don't. And then you can just move these down so it actually starts to look like a shadow that's actually in perspective. So there we go. And then you can do multiples of them to actually get it to feel a little bit more dynamic and create even more depth. So we get bigger and add more contrast. The more forward they go, and then the more backward they go, they can get smaller and lighter. And of course, this is where that dappled lighting comes into play. So if you actually did use a nice little dry brush, you're going to get some of that dappled lighting, which is what you would get from the trees. And then of course, we'll just show you, what this looks like then if you added some more saturation and did a fall scheme. So yeah, so that's really it. Editing those hues, the saturations, the opacities, that could really go a long way. So I have here another version that I was doing earlier. So I had more of a yellowish color going in, and then I was going to do some other reds in here and oranges, so kind of be late summer, early fall, something like that. So feel free to use these tips and tricks for your own projects, and good luck.